Texas is a state that thrives on its larger-than-life reputation. From its bold culture to its boundless ambition, everything about it feels amplified. In its thriving cities like Houston, people build lives filled with purpose, love, and the promise of brighter days. But every now and then, a story emerges that shakes even the most resilient of communities. A story so shocking, it leaves everyone searching for answers. A wedding day. A moment most of us dream about. A day meant for joy, celebration, and love. It's the culmination of a journey, a testament to overcoming challenges, and a promise of unwavering devotion. But for one Texas couple, that day became their final chapter. 2 lives filled with promise, brought to an end in an act of violence so unimaginable. It left an entire city in disbelief. The story itself raises countless questions. Who were these people? What led to this devastating moment? And how could someone commit such a brutal act on what should have been a day of love and unity? Houston, known for its resilience, became the unwilling witness to a tragedy that went far beyond the boundaries of any normal dispute. It wasn't random, it wasn't senseless, it was deliberate, and it was personal. This was a story of connections gone wrong. A man with a bright future, a woman who captured his heart, and another who couldn't let go of the past. What could drive someone to destroy not just lives, but love itself? How does a day designed to mark the beginning of a shared journey become the setting for its violent end? These questions linger, pulling you deeper into a narrative of human relationships, fragile emotions, and dangerous obsessions. Today, we explore the events that led to this horrifying crime. It's a story filled with ambition, hope, and dreams. Dreams that were shattered in a single, irrevocable act. Along the way, you'll learn about the individuals at the heart of this tragedy, the choices they made, and the storm that followed. This is more than just a tale of love and loss. It's a stark reminder of how fragile even the strongest bonds can be when tested by jealousy, rage, and unresolved pain. The answers aren't simple, and the impact is impossible to measure. What happened that day changed more than just the lives of those involved. It sent shockwaves through everyone who knew them, and even those who didn't. As we begin, keep in mind that the truths revealed in this story may be difficult to hear, but they're necessary to understand. This isn't just a story of loss. It's a story of how lives intersect, how emotions can erupt into actions, and how a single moment can alter everything. Elijah Bennett's journey to success was anything but ordinary. In Texas's fast-paced healthcare industry, he rose through the ranks not just because of his expertise, but because of his relentless drive to make a difference. Elijah wasn't content with simply running a business. He believed in creating something transformative, a network that prioritized patient care over profit and treated every client with the dignity they deserved. His charisma and vision made him a leader others wanted to follow, and his generosity cemented his reputation as someone who truly cared. To his colleagues, Elijah was more than just their boss. He was a mentor, a motivator, and often a confidant. At family gatherings, he was the one everyone turned to, the steady rock who always seemed to have things figured out. Friends spoke of his magnetic personality, one that could light up any room. But behind the sharp suits and commanding presence, there was also a man deeply devoted to those he loved. A man who dreamed of building a future filled with purpose and happiness. It was at a corporate gala that Elijah first crossed paths with Ayan Monroe. Ayan was a powerhouse in her own right, a marketing strategist who had carved out a reputation as a trailblazer in her field. With her radiant smile and unwavering determination, she had a knack for inspiring others. Ayan believed in breaking barriers, and her passion for empowering women made her a sought-after figure in professional circles. That night, fate brought them together. Ayan was presenting on the importance of authentic branding, while Elijah was there to support a healthcare initiative. Their meeting wasn't planned, but from the moment their paths crossed, there was an undeniable spark. A simple conversation quickly turned into hours of shared laughter, stories, and an instant understanding of each other's dreams. Elijah was captivated by her intelligence and drive, while Ayan was drawn to his warmth and vision. Their relationship unfolded like a love story meant to be. Late-night phone calls turned into weekend getaways, and soon they were inseparable. Both shared an innate understanding of the pressures of leadership and the sacrifices it required. Together, they found solace and strength, becoming each other's safe haven in the chaos of their demanding careers. Ayan embraced Elijah's daughter with open arms, quickly forging a bond that only deepened their connection. To outsiders, the trio seemed like the perfect modern family, balancing love, ambition, and parenthood with grace. They dreamed big, planning not just their future together, but how they could leave an even greater mark on the world. Elijah's dream of expanding his healthcare network was matched by Ayan's vision of creating mentorship programs for young women in underserved communities. But as their love story flourished, the shadows of the past began to creep in. Elijah's previous relationship with Shanice, the mother of his child, had always been complicated. At first, he believed they could maintain a civil co-parenting arrangement for the sake of their daughter. But over time, it became clear that Shanice's feelings ran deeper and darker than he had realized. Shanice's presence loomed like a storm on the horizon. There were moments of tension, sudden arguments over matters that seemed insignificant. As Elijah and Ayan planned their future, Shanice's unpredictability became harder to ignore. Subtle at first, her actions grew increasingly erratic. Late-night calls would end abruptly. Messages filled with accusations and bitterness would follow moments of calm. Alia, ever the optimist, believed they could find a resolution. She encouraged Elijah to approach the situation with patience and understanding, hoping that time and kindness would heal the wounds of the past. Elijah too wanted to believe that they could navigate this delicate situation without letting it disrupt the life they were building together. But beneath the surface, Shanice's resentment simmered. Her actions hinted at something more than just unresolved feelings, something far more dangerous. As the wedding date drew nearer, tensions mounted, and Shanice's behavior became increasingly volatile. Even as Elijah and Ayan focused on their love and their dreams, there were moments they couldn't ignore. The unsettling phone calls, the way Shanice seemed to appear at events uninvited, the unpredictable tone in her voice during conversations about their daughter. It was as if they were standing on the edge of something they couldn't quite see, something they hoped they would never have to face. And yet, amidst these warning signs, they pushed forward, clinging to their love and the life they had worked so hard to create. Their story was one of triumph over challenges, a testament to the power of connection and perseverance. But, as the pieces of their future began to fall into place, the echoes of the past refused to be silenced. Their love seemed unshakable, their resolve unwavering. But as the day they had dreamed of approached, the forces at play were moving closer, faster than anyone could have imagined. The storm that had been brewing in the distance was no longer just a threat. It was a reality, waiting to strike. Shanice's troubled past wasn't something Elijah had ignored. He knew about her history, arrests for assault, incidents involving property damage, and a temper that could flare without warning. Yet, for the sake of their daughter, he tried to make peace with it. He wanted his child to grow up knowing both parents, even if the relationship between them was fractured. Elijah was the kind of man who believed in second chances, who thought that time and maturity could bring stability to even the most chaotic situations. In the beginning, it seemed like he might have been right. After their breakup, Shanice appeared to settle into her role as a co-parent. Their interactions were civil, and though the emotional weight of their shared history lingered, they managed to focus on what mattered most, their daughter. But as Elijah and Ayan's relationship deepened, cracks in that fragile peace began to appear. At first, the changes in Shanice's behavior were subtle. An uncharacteristic sharpness in her tone during conversations, comments that seemed innocuous but carried an undercurrent of bitterness. Then came the messages. At all hours of the day and night, Elijah's phone would light up with texts from Shanice. Sometimes they were about their daughter, but more often they spiraled into accusations and demands. When Elijah didn't respond quickly enough, the messages turned hostile. Ayan, ever the optimist, tried to downplay the situation. She encouraged Elijah to approach these moments with patience, to keep communication focused on their daughter and not engage with the personal attacks. But as the wedding drew closer, Shanice's behavior escalated. She began showing up unannounced, not just at Elijah's office, but at their home. Friends of the couple later recalled how unsettling these encounters had become. One friend recounted an evening when Shanice appeared at a dinner party Elijah and Ayan were hosting. She claimed she was there to discuss an urgent matter about their daughter, but her presence unsettled everyone. She lingered longer than necessary, her gaze sharp and unyielding as she scanned the... On another occasion, Ayan confided in a close friend about an incident that left her shaken. She had been out running errands when she noticed a car following her. At first, she thought it was just a coincidence, but as she took turn after turn, the car stayed with her. It wasn't until she pulled into a crowded parking lot that the car sped off. Though Ayan couldn't prove it, she couldn't shake the feeling that it was Shanice behind the wheel. As the wedding date approached, the tension became almost unbearable. Elijah, always the problem solver, tried to reason with Shanice, pleading with her to put their differences aside for the sake of their daughter. But his words seemed to have the opposite effect, fueling her anger rather than calming it. Shanice's obsession was growing. Friends later described her as being consumed by jealousy and rage, unable to let go of the life she once shared with Elijah. Her fixation on their relationship became all-encompassing, and it was clear that she saw Ayan not just as an obstacle, but as a threat to her very identity. Meanwhile, Elijah and Ayan tried to focus on their future. They poured their energy into wedding preparations, choosing venues, finalizing guest lists, and dreaming about the life they were about to begin. But beneath the surface, they were deeply unsettled. They spoke in hushed tones about the unpredictable nature of Shanice's behavior, and though they didn't want to admit it, both of them feared what she might do next. One evening, as they sat together reviewing wedding details, Ayan brought up her concerns. "Elijah," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "what if she doesn't stop? What if this doesn't end once we're married?" Elijah took her hand, his expression heavy with emotion. "We'll figure it out," he assured her. "After the wedding, we'll set boundaries. We'll talk to a lawyer if we have to. We can't let her control our lives." But even as he spoke, there was an unease in his voice, a sense that he wasn't entirely convinced. Unbeknownst to them, Shanice's obsession was reaching a dangerous peak. In her mind, this wedding wasn't just a celebration of love, it was a symbol of everything she had lost. Her anger, which had once been confined to words and gestures, was now morphing into something far more sinister. In the days leading up to the wedding, Shanice's behavior became increasingly erratic. She stopped responding to messages about their daughter and began isolating herself from friends and family. When those close to her tried to intervene, she lashed out, accusing them of taking sides. It was as if she was retreating into her own world, one where her anger and jealousy festered unchecked. Elijah and Ayan, unaware of the full extent of Shanice's unraveling, continued to push forward. They were determined to focus on their love and the life they were building together. But the signs were there. Ominous, chilling signs that something was very wrong. As the wedding day approached, an uneasy tension hung in the air. It was a tension that no one could quite put into words, but one that everyone close to the couple seemed to feel. And as the day they had dreamed of finally arrived, the storm that had been building for so long was ready to break. January 15th dawned with a crisp winter breeze carrying the promise of celebration. The venue, an elegant estate in Houston, was transformed into a picturesque scene straight from a dream. Rows of white chairs adorned with delicate floral arrangements lined the garden. A soft melody played in the background as loved ones arrived, dressed in their finest, smiles etched on their faces. This was the day Elijah and Ayan had spent months planning, a culmination of their love, resilience, and hope for the future. Inside the bridal suite, Ayan was a vision in her gown, her laughter filling the room as her closest friends fussed over final touches. "You're glowing," one of her bridesmaids said, beaming with admiration. Ayan clutched her bouquet and took a deep breath. "I've never been so sure of anything in my life," she said, her voice steady despite the overwhelming emotions. In another room, Elijah was surrounded by his groomsmen, adjusting his tie in the mirror. His closest friend gave him a playful nudge. "Nervous?" Elijah chuckled, shaking his head. "Not at all. I'm ready. This is the best decision I've ever made," His confidence and joy were palpable, a testament to the deep love he shared with Ayan. But while the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation, there was an undercurrent of unease that no one could quite explain. Guests exchanged glances, sensing something was slightly off. Maybe it was the faint tension Elijah carried in his shoulders, or the way Ayan had hesitated for a moment when her mother hugged her tightly. They couldn't have known that these small signs were harbingers of the unthinkable. Unbeknownst to the couple and their guests, Shanice was making her way to the venue. Her presence was uninvited and entirely unexpected. Witnesses would later describe her as erratic, her expression a volatile mix of rage and desperation. She had no intention of blending into the celebration or quietly observing from afar. Shanice arrived in a vehicle that she parked hastily near the entrance. Several guests noticed her immediately, her hurried movements and disheveled appearance stark against the polished elegance of the gathering. "Who is that?" a guest whispered to another. But before anyone could fully process what was happening, she stormed into the venue. Inside, the ceremony was moments away from beginning. Elijah and Ayan had taken their places, ready to exchange vows in front of their loved ones. The minister stood at the altar, the guests seated in rows behind him, eagerly awaiting the union of two people they deeply admired. Shanice's arrival was as disruptive as it was shocking. She burst into the garden where the ceremony was being held, her voice sharp and cutting as she called out Elijah's name. The crowd turned in unison, gasps rippling through the attendees. Elijah's expression shifted immediately. He stepped forward, raising his hands in an attempt to calm her. "Shanice, not here. Please, let's talk later," he said, his tone firm but measured. Ayan stood frozen, clutching his arm as the weight of the moment settled over her. But Shanice wasn't there to talk. Her voice grew louder, accusations spilling out, her anger spilling into the serene scene like a storm cloud. Several guests moved to intervene, sensing the situation escalating. One of Elijah's groomsmen approached, speaking gently, trying to diffuse the tension. Then, in a move that shocked everyone, Shanice reached into her coat and pulled out a firearm. For a moment, the world seemed to stand still. The crowd gasped, some shouting warnings, others scrambling to shield their loved ones. "Shanice, no!" Elijah shouted, stepping in front of Ayan as if to shield her. His protective instincts were immediate, but they couldn't save them. The first shot rang out, followed by another. Chaos erupted as guests screamed and ran for cover, tables overturning and chairs crashing to the ground. Paramedics would later describe the scene as one of sheer pandemonium, with people scattering in every direction, some frozen in shock, others collapsing to the ground in tears. When the dust settled, Elijah and Ayan lay motionless. The vibrant couple who had inspired so many with their love story was gone in an instant. Shanice, her face twisted in an expression of anger and anguish, fled the scene, leaving devastation in her wake. For those who survived, the horror of what had just unfolded was almost too much to process. A day that should have been filled with laughter, joy, and the promise of a bright future was instead marked by grief and tragedy. The venue, once so full of life, was now a scene of heartbreak that would haunt all who were there. The moments following the attack were a blur of sirens, flashing lights, and desperate attempts to save the couple. Paramedics worked tirelessly, but it was too late. The two lives that had been full of promise and love were extinguished, leaving behind an immeasurable void. The aftermath of the tragedy was a profound and far-reaching wave of shock and sorrow. News of the double homicide spread quickly, and what had begun as a day of celebration turned into headlines of horror across Texas and beyond. The vibrant lives of Elijah Bennett and Ayan Monroe, cut short in a moment of rage, became a symbol of the fragility of life and the devastating consequences of unchecked emotions. Shanice was apprehended just hours after the attack, her escape thwarted by a coordinated effort from local law enforcement. She was found several miles away, her vehicle abandoned near a rural area. The arrest itself was uneventful. Shanice appeared almost detached, her demeanor eerily calm in contrast to the violence she had unleashed. Investigators began piecing together a timeline, uncovering a disturbing pattern of behavior that had escalated over time. Interviews with friends and family painted a picture of a woman consumed by jealousy and unable to cope with the evolving lives of those around her. Text messages and voicemails revealed threats, pleas, and an obsession that had taken a dark turn long before the tragic day. The courtroom would later become the stage for a community's grief and anger. During her trial, prosecutors laid bare the depths of Shanice's torment and the calculated nature of her actions. Evidence showed that she had been planning the attack for weeks, fueled by a toxic combination of resentment, possessiveness, and emotional instability. Elijah's colleagues from the healthcare sector, who had worked closely with him to improve access to quality care, spoke of the void left in their lives. Ayan's friends shared memories of her laughter, her unyielding spirit, and her dreams of using her marketing expertise to uplift underrepresented communities. The loss resonated far beyond their inner circles. Advocacy groups highlighted the need for better support systems for individuals struggling with mental health challenges, especially in cases involving custody disputes or family conflict. The tragedy became a rallying cry for change, a painful reminder of the human cost of unresolved tensions and unaddressed cries for help. For the families of Elijah and Ayan, the journey to healing was long and fraught with heartbreak. Their loved ones were robbed of a future, their dreams forever unrealized. The image of their wedding day, once a source of joy, was now tainted by the memory of violence. Yet, amidst the pain, there was also a resolve to honor their legacy. Scholarships were established in their names to support students pursuing careers in healthcare and marketing. Community vigils were held, drawing hundreds who came to light candles and share stories of how the couple had touched their lives. These gestures of remembrance served as a testament to the impact Elijah and Ayan had in their short but meaningful lives. Shanice, now facing charges of first-degree murder, awaits sentencing. Her case has sparked heated debates about the intersection of criminal behavior and mental health. Could this tragedy have been prevented if intervention had come earlier? Were the signs of her unraveling clear enough to have prompted action? These questions linger, a haunting echo of the lives that were lost. As the dust settled, one thing became clear. The story of Elijah and Ayan was not just a tale of love and loss, but a powerful reminder of the responsibilities we bear to one another. It underscored the need for vigilance, compassion, and action in the face of warning signs that too often go ignored. For those who knew them, Elijah and Ayan's legacy was one of kindness, ambition, and an unwavering belief in the power of love. Their story, though marked by unspeakable tragedy, continues to inspire others to strive for a better, more compassionate world. If you've made it this far into their story, take a moment to reflect on the impact unresolved tensions can have on the people around us. If you believe that love and kindness should always triumph over anger and violence, subscribe to this channel. Only those who believe in spreading negativity and harm would choose not to. Let's come together to ensure that stories like this lead to change and never repeat themselves.